Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. It is a Wednesday edition of the show, our second episode of the week, and our first Bucs regular season game preview of the year. Bucs versus Commanders. We're going to break it all down, some of the biggest matchups, things to watch, things to look forward to. And all I could say is it's exciting to do this Bucs preview. I'm your host, Matt Tara. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com, SR Scott Reynolds. Scott, are you excited?
I'm excited. Probably not as excited as Todd Bowles, though, but I'm excited.
All right, so for those tuning in that maybe did not see it, we obviously were at the Bucs facility today. Got to interview Todd Bowles, Baker Mayfield, number of guys in the locker room. So Bowles got asked a question today, and it started out with the preface of the question of, Todd, you're normally a stoic guy on the sidelines. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
So then Bowles got asked, along with the question, how are you feeling going into week one? What are your thoughts going into week one? And this is what the ever stoic Todd Bowles had to say about it. If it's a little loud at first, we apologize, but we're giving you that fair warning now. Blame Todd. The stoic Todd Bowles gives his thoughts about week one.
It's exciting! You are now on video. The rest of the day.
You're me now.
Startled us a little bit there.
You always have the butterflies when you go out there. I mean, it's opening day in the NFL. No different than when you were.
God, that was epic.
Here goes NFL total.
It was sitting there.
It was kind of a layup, right? Like.
An all-time moment in Bucs press conference history. Yeah. For me, since I've been covering the team, so again, as far as like press conferences go, not like things on the field and anything of that nature, it's certainly a top 5 moment. I think it might even be a top 3 because it's something we've talked about a lot about Todd Bowles, with Todd Bowles, directly to him. And he is a funny guy behind the scenes, and I think everybody got to see it in that moment. Slamming the lectern, not a podium, a lectern. It's exciting. It's exciting. It was just one of those, like, people were so caught off guard. It scared some people. It was like a shot of adrenaline, really, to everybody, and just an all-time comical moment.
Yeah, I just put in the Pewter Report chat a Pewter Pulse video I did a couple weeks ago. It was titled, "What the Heck Happened to Todd Bowles?" Like, who is this guy, right? And this is exactly the type of thing I was alluding to in that Pewter Pulse video. Todd Bowles is comfortable. He's chill. He's laid back. I mean, he still has that fire and intensity and will to win, but he's very kind of like feeling the vibes from this football team. He feels very confident heading into this year, and he's letting more of his personality show. He's not that guarded, short answer type of guy. We'll get those occasionally, but for him, unprompted, to do something like that caught everybody off guard was it was something to see for sure. And I think it's a great way to kind of kick off the new year with a little bit of a new Todd Bowles. And you know what, Matt? We've talked about it time and again during this offseason. He saved his job last year. This team not only made the playoffs, but he put together one hell of a masterpiece against the Eagles in that wild card win at home. And that further aided his job security, took the Lions to the fourth quarter in that divisional playoff game. And we've kind of seen him take some steps. We've seen him level up a little bit as a head coach. And I'm curious to see, can he continue to level up? And can he go head to head with the likes of a Dan Campbell and come away with the win, the likes of a Kyle Shanahan and come away with the win? That's what we want to see. The knock on Andy Reid in Philadelphia was that even though he took the Eagles to one Super Bowl, they lost. He couldn't quite level up. He did that in Kansas City. Now he's got a dynasty there. Of course, Patrick Mahomes helps.
Yeah.
But we still want to see if Todd Bowles at age 60 can continue to take some of these steps as a game manager, Believe it or not, a crazy stat: the Bucs were second in the league in fourth down conversion percentage last year, and I think they were like 16 of 18 on fourth down. I mean, Todd Bowles went for it a lot on fourth down, and that's saying something with a rookie offensive play caller and a new quarterback, and a new offensive system. But I'm curious to see how Todd Bowles grows this year, and if training camp and what we've seen so far is any indication, he's growing.
Yeah, Todd Bowles has been open to new ideas. Like, yeah, he's technically an older coach in the league, but that doesn't stop him from growing, from learning. If you recall, in that playoff game against Detroit last year, the Bucs went for two in a situation where they scored, and going for two would have put them in a situation where if they scored again, they would have just had to kick a field goal or whatever the situation was.
Yeah.
So he's open to new ideas. I think he's learned to be more aggressive when it's warranted. And if anything, I feel like a defensive coach should be a little bit more aggressive because you trust your defense to get the stop no matter what. And again, the moment with him slamming his hands on the lectern and everything like that, it goes into a lot of things that we know and learned of Todd Bowles. For example, I still remember talking to Jason Light right after Bowles was announced as the new head coach. And I was like, Jason, like, what's something that, you guys know about Todd Bowles that maybe not everybody knows? And he goes, he talks a lot of shiitake mushrooms, I guess is what I will say. And you see it more and more. Will Golson once said he's a guy that you want to run through a brick wall for. And I think you notice it last year too, when the Bucs lost so many games and things could have really spiraled, and they didn't. And Todd Bowles was a big reason because of that. The players obviously were too. So it is a very different situation this year because the Bucs found some success. Like if they would have went 8-9 again and missed the playoffs, if Todd Bowles is still the head coach, which probably wouldn't be the head coach if that was the situation, he's not coming in laughing, poking fun, doing all this stuff. And it's really trickled on down. Like it's kind of a chicken or the egg situation. Is it Todd Bowles being relaxed that's helped the rest of the team kind of be loosey-goosey throughout training camp and this week? Or was it the team being so relaxed that Todd Bowles can kind of let his guard down? Because Baker Mayfield went up to the podium and was like, I'm excited too. And then a cell phone went off and he's like, oh, what are we doing here? Like I was on a roll. Obviously he was joking around and things of that nature. But the Bucs certainly are not tense going into this week 1 matchup against the Washington Commanders. From Todd Bowles to Baker Mayfield, things are easy going. I'm not saying they're taking Washington lightly by any means, but there have been more tense situations for the Bucs to begin a season, and I don't feel that way at all right now.
No, I agree. And again, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. We're going to be diving into the matchup against the Commanders and kind of what to expect. And it's week 1, so sometimes you're not really sure what to expect. But Todd Bowles and his veteran coaching staff, they've you go back and look at what Cliff Kingsbury did at Arizona as a play caller and a head coach. You look at what Dan Quinn did in Dallas as a defensive coordinator, in Atlanta as a head coach. You just try to pick apart the different facets of it. You study Jaden Daniels, what he did at LSU, also at Arizona State. You just kind of watch the whole collection. And the beauty of week 1 is there's always some surprises. There's always some upsets as well. And hopefully the Buccaneers won't be upset. Hopefully they'll take care of business and start the season 1-0. But at the same time, Matt, there is that kind of element of surprise that is there because you don't show a lot in the preseason. And I'm just curious to see how Todd Bowles gets after Jaden Daniels. He's had some success. If you go back and look at Justin Fields, who's a very mobile quarterback, they beat the Bears bloody 38-3 in Fields' rookie season. And I want to say it was 2021. And last year, the CJ Stroud game sticks out like a sore thumb for sure. They had their worst game defensively of the year against the Texans in Houston. However, against Will Levis and twice against Bryce Young, they got the victory. And neither one of those quarterbacks did anything against the Buccaneers. Matter of fact, you look at Bryce Young and the Panthers were shut out in week 18. So Bowles was 3-1 last year against rookie quarterbacks. But there are a couple of awards. The Daniel Jones back in 2019 and his first start against the Buccaneers, the Giants came back to beat the Bucs. That was ugly. Obviously, the CJ Stroud game last year. And then, you could point out Brock Purdy beating the Buccaneers and Todd Bowles in his first start. That was the Brock Purdy versus Tom Brady game in 2022. But I mean, let's face it, Brock Purdy's a good quarterback, and the 49ers have got an awful lot of complementary weapons and a great offensive line around him. They just were the better team in 2022. But I don't want to sit there and say Bowles has just been awful against rookie quarterbacks. We go back to Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury back in 2019. Bowles' first year as defensive coordinator, they got a win against Kyler Murray, and that's something that's noteworthy because this is going to be a similar offense that I think that Tampa Bay is going to see. And they faced Arizona twice. They beat them on Christmas night in 2022, and then back in 2019 when they were last year in Tampa.
It's interesting to look at this matchup of Jaden Daniels against essentially Todd Bowles, but the Buccaneers defense as well, because, you mentioned the CJ Stroud thing, and it's a really good point. I think what's also important is that, they played the Texans halfway through the year, maybe even the latter half of the season, where Jaden Daniels is coming in having never played an NFL game before, only some brief appearances in the preseason. So on the one hand, you don't have the NFL tape on Jaden Daniels just yet, which you kind of obviously you would like to have, you would prefer to have when you're going up against him. But on the flip side of it, that means Jaden Daniels hasn't seen what Tampa Bay can concoct this year, because Todd Bowles comes up with different things every single season. And there's a lot of things that Jaden Daniels just doesn't know right now that he'll know a lot more about in October and November and December and as the season goes on. So yes, there are a lot of upsets week one. And if you're a fan of like a bad team, which the Buccaneers are not by any means, but if you're a fan of a bad team, you'd almost rather play a great team early on while things are still getting figured out. But on the flip side, I'd almost rather play a rookie quarterback early in the season based on some of the advantages that you can get versus Jaden Daniels figuring it out and going wild in December. I think the Bryce Young thing is just so different because the Panthers were such a porous team in so many areas, where Washington surely has its deficiencies. I mean, they were last in yardage defensively last year.
You're exactly right. And you bring up the Bryce Young thing and the timing of this. The Panthers were dead in the water in December, right? When they played the Panthers twice. I mean, they had nothing to play for. They were playing for the number 1 overall pick, which they didn't have because they traded it away. But Washington, hey, I mean, they get a puncher's chance. Everybody does in week one because of the surprise element, and everybody's relatively healthy. There's no attrition due to injuries and that kind of thing. So, this is a totally different situation where a week one win, who knows what it does for the Commanders and their confidence, whereas the Panthers just, by that time, they were resigned to, they knew they were going to have a head coaching change, et cetera, et cetera. Didn't know it was going to be Dave Canales, right? But it is a different situation with the timing of it. We have a $4.99 super chat from Redfish here, Matt.
Yeah, thank you to Redfish, who says, play Jaden Daniels like we did Michael Vick, of course, back in the day. Rush, but stay parallel. Don't go around. Pressure's a must. Question is, do we play more man or zone?
It's a great question. Strategically,
really question.
Yes, I think strategically what you do against a quarterback that can really get you with his legs, right? Most quarterbacks, if they're going to scramble, pick up a first down on third down, whatever, they might get 7 yards. This is a guy, he's got 17 yards because of the speed, right? And so he can go from not just picking up a first down, but maybe hitting a home run. He's got that type of speed. He ran for 1,000 yards last year at LSU against SEC defenses. Oh, and by the way, he's also a very good passer. I mean, he's probably on par. I think he's going to be on par with CJ Stroud. Maybe not out of the gate, but that will happen in time. And I want to think that he is a player that is going to be the best quarterback out of this draft class. I just loved him. I loved him his first year at LSU. And I've talked to Rachaad White about him plenty before he even won the Heisman, before his senior year. He's a legit player. And it doesn't mean that the Buccaneers are doomed by any means in week one. But the interesting thing about him and how you have to play him is I think you want to play zone more than man. In other words, you want to mix it up. But anytime that you play man, you have to be strategic about it because the defender's backs are going to be to the quarterback. And if you don't have good lane integrity when you rush the passer, and if you allow him an escape route, maybe even up the middle, that's where you're susceptible to a big quarterback scramble, an automatic first down, and maybe even a big chunk play. So whereas if you spot drop and you go to those kind of soft zones, linebackers, corners, etc., you had that second level kind of defended. And it might even take away the propensity for Daniels to want to escape the pocket, because he knows if he's in the pocket, he doesn't see all that green grass. He might be tempted to stay there and say, well, shoot, if I break the pocket, if I break contain, I'm going to get like 2-3 yards. I'm going to get whacked. Whereas if everyone's going downfield, their backs are to the quarterback, they're in man coverage, he sees a crease, he's like, man, I got 15 yards, then I can slide and pick up a first down. So you're going to see a mix of both. The problem is you can't play a bunch of zone unless you do some zone blitzes, which Todd Bowles does a lot of. But if you want to blitz, you're going to have to play some man, because you're bringing extra people from coverage, from the secondary, from that linebacker level to the quarterback. So the whole key for Todd Bowles will be when to blitz, when to pressure. And, of course, the beauty, Matt, with a rookie quarterback is you want him playing the guessing game. You want him to think, oh, this is first down, they're not going to blitz. What do we see all the time, Matt, in training camp? We see Todd blitz on first down a lot, right? Because he wants to get that quarterback thinking, oh, well, I'm not going to get blitzed here. I'm going to do play action pass. They're going to blitz me on third down. That might be the time where Todd Bowles does a double mug A gap, right? Covers up the center. And then all of a sudden, rushes 3 and drops 8, right? You can expect those types of chess match moves from Todd Bowles to really get Jaden Daniels thinking instead of playing football and going through his reads.
Right. The biggest advantage the Bucs will have is forcing Jaden Daniels to go through a Rolodex of things that he studied, like, oh, when the Bucs are in this package, they're going to do this, but then they don't run it. So the answer really to it is that they're going to mix up a lot of the schemes and man and zone, but I feel like with the different looks that the Bucs bring, it's more likely that they'll play zone out of it, because as I always like to bring up, like when they drop back Vita Vea in zone, which they won't do too often, especially not on Sunday. Yeah. You're not going to have Vita Vea try to like guard Brian Robinson or tight end or something like that. Or if Joe Tryon-Shank is out in coverage, you rather him cover an area versus actually going up against a skill position player. Right. So I think you will see more zone because of that. I think the biggest thing is obviously you want to keep Daniels in the pocket. I understand that he could throw it well, but again, with some of the weapons that Washington doesn't have, with really just scary Terry McLaurin being the top wide receiver, I get that Daniels can make other players better, but I don't see that happening in week 1. So you want to, take your opportunities with Jamel Dean against Terry McLaurin, but if you're able to cover him well enough, Daniels doesn't have a ton of other options. So the QB spy, I think, is going to be big, whether it's Levante, whether they decide with KJ Britt, maybe they do it with a safety too. I think that will be a big component in this game as well. We got a super chat from Ward Burns. Thank you very much, Ward, who says, my question disappeared. In my opinion, we should avoid all the exotic stuff on defense. Treat this guy like he's Mahomes and instead try to take out his teammates and make him run all day. Agree?
It's an interesting strategy. It goes against what Todd Bowles wants to do, which is pressure. At the same time, it did work out well in the Super Bowl, right? When they didn't pressure with those exotic blitz packages, they just pressured with 4. And I think Todd Bowles in the first quarter will throw a couple blitzes to see how Jaden Daniels handles it, but he wants to be able to get home with 4. And again, when you can play zone behind that with 7 defenders covering 5 eligibles, whether they're tight ends, receivers, running backs, whatever, and only rush 4 and get home and pressure the quarterback with 4, then you've really won the chess match. Then you are dictating to the offense what's going to happen in the game. And so that's what Todd Bowles lamented over last year, that his front 4 was not getting enough adequate pressure with Shaq Barrett, with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, with Kalijah Kancey and Vita Vea. Now I think with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka in a contract year, with Yaya Diaby in the starting lineup, kind of replacing Shaq Barrett, with second-year Kalijah Cansey as a better pass rusher. Vita Vea slimmed down. I think that their chances are probably better to create more pressure with 4. But that's an interesting strategy for sure. I think Todd Bowles is going to do a little bit of everything and see kind of what works, probe and see what's working, and then keep doing what's working and throw out what's not.
Yeah, because that's the other side of it. If you do get him running around, I mean, obviously, if he's just running and sliding or running and getting out of bounds, that's not really advantageous to the Bucs. But if they can lay a couple of hits on Jaden Daniels,
yeah,
he's not the biggest guy. Like Anthony Richardson of the Colts is a mobile dude that's like thick and physical. That's not really Jaden Daniels. He is lightning quick, but you get a couple of hits on it. I'm not saying you're going to take him out of the game,
right?
But I think you're severely going to limit him as an overall, his overall quarterback play. I guess really is what I should say. And I think what will be important, you kind of already talked about the 4-man pass rush getting home. It's just how often are they able to collapse the pocket overall? Because with some of the other guys that weren't able to get there, if they can get there this time around, yeah, it's good and that's important. But I think what I fear the most is with whether it's the pass rush not getting home or Bowles not still wanting to get beat deep. The worst thing that can happen is Jaden Daniels gets into a rhythm early, because we've seen that before with rookies or subpar quarterbacks. Is Bowles is so afraid of like the big moments that everything else is let go underneath. And if you're sending guys and more guys are open, Daniels can just start getting into a rhythm. That's my biggest fear really for the Bucs as far as their defense going up against the Commanders offense, because if Daniels gets into a rhythm early in this game, it could be a huge issue for Tampa Bay the whole game.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And this kind of dovetails into what Meets McGee, $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Says, would you start off playing aggressive D, or would you feel out their plan before going into your bag of tricks? I'm going to put on my South Pasco Predators defensive coordinator hat from when I was coaching Pop Warner.
Okay.
And I loved just getting after it, setting the tone. And the key word that you just said, Matt, is comfortable. You want to make the quarterback as uncomfortable as possible as soon as possible, because playing quarterback, whether you're running or passing, it's a rhythm type of feel, and make him uncomfortable early, because it's so hard to go from uncomfortable to comfortable during a game. It's a much quicker, easier transition to go from comfortable to uncomfortable, like if you're bringing pressure. But man, if it starts off uncomfortable, you have a hard time getting more comfortable as the game goes on, because football is a game of momentum. It's a game of emotion. You get the defense feeling it, right? And it just makes for a long day. The offensive line, all of a sudden, they're on their heels, right? The running backs, they're getting bowled over by Levante David or Antoine Winfield Jr. on blitzes. And you just want to be on offense while you're playing defense. And I really hate the terms offense and defense, because when you think about it, you want the defense to be on offense as well. You want them in attack mode. So I go after Jaden Daniels, try to make him as uncomfortable as possible. Because here's the thing: if he's comfortable and he's in a rhythm early, and you're sending pressure, okay, fine. Then you back off and say, okay, I'm going to rush 4 and drop 7. Now you're going to have to find the open receiver, and we have 7 covering 5. And let's see how you do when it's that type of situation.
And that's another caveat of the Bucs defense that we saw at times last year where it worked great, but not as much as we wanted to, where this defense is playing with a lead. When we saw it against the Titans and against the Jaguars, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. But it was a little too few and far between. And honestly, that falls on the offense. There's only so much the defense can do. So a perfect case scenario, you want to see this every single game. But again, specifically to playing against Washington with a rookie quarterback, with a new system and a new coaching staff in place, I would love to see on Sunday afternoon, Washington gets the ball first.
Yes.
Bucs start with a 3-and-out on defense, and then the offense comes in, goes down the field, scores a touchdown. They're up 7-0, and now Jaden Daniels has to go, oh, damn. Now I'm down 7-0 going against this defense that is, already hungry and excited, the word of the day. because it's week 1 of the regular season.
Yep.
I mean, that if I could draw it up, that's how I would for Tampa Bay. We got another super chat though, a $20 super chat.
Wow, thank you, Richie.
Richie P. Thank you so much, Richie. Who's saying for Cameron Johnson, I'm getting the feeling that Cam's quote injury may not have been a covert operation to get him to the practice squad. Now that he's on the roster, how do you think Liam will incorporate him into Sunday's game?
We're going to find out. We did see even in the preseason game, we're not giving away any secrets here, but we did see some end arounds to use that speed. And, we're not out of practice watching what the Buccaneers are doing. For example, the Bucs give us 30 minutes to watch practice. What it boils down to is we get the opportunity to see who's practicing and who's not. And the good news is, Matt, everybody except for Logan Hall was practicing, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So Logan Hall might be a game time decision. As Todd Bowles said, he has a foot, which means that he actually has 2 feet, but one of them is
he
injured.
Does.
So, so we'll see. But in other words, in the first 30 minutes, it's watching calisthenics, it's watching stretching, it's watching maybe like an individual drill where quarterbacks are handing off to running backs, but it's nothing team. There's no strategy. There's no one-on-ones. We're not getting any of that. So we don't know how they're going to use Cameron Johnson. But if I was Liam Cohen, I would get him involved on some really simple things to make that jump from Barton College in North Carolina to the NFL not so daunting. Matt, I would think a wide receiver screen, something like a little tunnel screen down the line, an end around, something like that where he doesn't have to read an option route, right? And settle down in a specific zone. The last thing you want to do is have Baker Mayfield throw the ball expecting that the undrafted free agent rookie who he's hardly really played with is going to be here when he's actually over there. And then all of a sudden it's a pick six. That's what you want to avoid if you're an offensive coordinator. So find easy, simple ways to get your rookie undrafted free agent the ball in his first NFL game.
I'm super thrilled that Cameron Johnson's on this team. I'm very excited to see how he's going to be used. But to answer the question, at least for week 1, I'm not sure like how often he's really going to be utilized. Now, I agree. I think if he is in, screen pass is like the first play that he should go and get. But let's also remember he's 5th on the depth chart. He's behind Trey Palmer and some of the other guys. So even if the Bucs go to a 4 wide receiver set, it's not even really going to be Cameron Johnson in. So what I hope Liam Cohen doesn't fall into, because we saw it last year with Canales and like Devin Tompkins to a degree, where Devin Tompkins is on the field, here comes like the end around. Right. And I don't want that to be the case with Cameron Johnson, even though, with all due respect to Devin Tompkins, Cameron Johnson is way more electrifying. He's faster and seems to have a better, breakaway ability and all of those things. I don't want Cameron Johnson to be on the field because he's going to get an end around or a special bubble screen to him. So what I hope is, and again, because we don't get to see the meat and potatoes of practice,
right?
What I hope is that Cameron Johnson is featured in a couple of packages where maybe he is the 3rd wide receiver after Mike and Chris. And you're not going to see that all the time. Or Mike Evans needs a break and it's Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, and Cameron Johnson is in on a specific play. I think that's the best way to get him acclimated into the offense, because as great as he was in the preseason, that was a lot of work with Kyle Trask and John Wolford. Obviously, Michael Pratt is on the team now, but not a ton of work with Baker Mayfield. So that's going to come in time with practice. But overall, I'm very excited about what Cameron Johnson could do for this team.
Yeah, and we're not going to give anything away here, but Matt, you and I, we both saw a particular package, let's just say in the red zone, that featured Cameron Johnson in some very cool ways. And that's all we're going to say. And maybe that happens in week 1. Maybe it happens against Detroit. Maybe save it for a little bit later in the season. But they definitely do some cool things with Cameron Johnson, and we have to leave it at that. But that's some things we saw during training camp, but I like Liam Cohen's imagination. Let's put it that way.
Yes. The only better imagination out there really is the people over at Celsius that come up with all these great, fantastic flavors and different flavor combinations. Of course, Celsius is the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. Make sure you check out some of their newest flavors, the sparkling watermelon lemonade and the sparkling kiwi strawberry. Awesome flavors, great boost to start your day. So if you need to know where to find a Celsius energy drink, head on over to the Celsius store locator on their website. Punch in your address and it'll tell you the closest location where you can pick one up. Could be a Walmart, a Publix, a King Cullen, a Piggly Wiggly, a health and fitness store, or your bodega.
Bodega.
And once you keep going to your bodega, you know you love Celsius and you want more and you want to buy it in bulk. You can get it in bulk over on Amazon. I'd recommend getting the subscribe and save. You should do the subscribe and save. I'd recommend getting the variety pack because there's so many awesome flavors that you heard me rattle off. I like the Arctic Vibe personally, which is my favorite. So, do the subscribe and save over on Amazon. Have it sent to your place of residence whenever you want. Just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. Got a couple of more super chats to get to, Scott. Also, the injury report just came out as well. All right. So the official injury report, a lot of names, but not too many to be overly concerned about. So for the Bucs, defensive tackle Ernest Brown with a ribs injury was limited.
Yep.
Fully participating was Yaya Diaby with an ankle, Servase Dennis with the shoulder. Now, all these guys have two of these things, but I'm just saying one.
Yeah.
Tyreek Funderburk with the foot, also full. Yeah. Not participating was Logan Hall, who we just talked about with the foot injury. Josh Hayes fully participated with the hip injury. Chase McLaughlin, the kicker, was the other one that was out today. Mm-hmm. He is dealing with a abdomen/illness. So that's something certainly to monitor for the rest of the week with Chase McLaughlin, Money McLaughlin, their kicker. Everybody else I'm about to mention fully participated today. Kayvon Merriweather with a knee, Trey Palmer concussion, J.J. Russell ribs, Justin School abdomen, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka shoulder, and last but not least, Jordan Whitehead with a quadriceps injury. Obviously, we've been paying attention to Jordan Whitehead for a little while now. Washington, much smaller list. Practicing in full, the first three, Brandon Coleman with the shoulder, Clelin Ferrell with the knee, and Dante Fowler also with the knee injury. Limited in practice, Marcus Mariota, chest, the quarterback, defensive tackle, Johnny Newton, the foot, Deron Payne with the back, and Trent Scott, the offensive tackle, limited with a knee injury. So there's your injury report today. Obviously, Logan Hall will need some monitoring, and we'll see what's up with Chase McLaughlin. And, see what's up with that.
Interesting week one matchup here. We'll get into it in a second, but we do want to welcome a brand new partner to the Pewter Report team here. And it's sometimes you hit free agency and you pick up some new players. And we have that now with BetUS as the official sports book of Pewter Report. And we want to welcome BetUS to our team. And we wanted to let you all know I just became a BetUS player as well. So listen up, sports bettors. Your favorite sports book, BetUS.com, is back for the 30th year of NFL action. So these are veterans when it comes to sports books, 30 years in business with the industry's biggest sign-up bonus up to 200%. BetUS offers the members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, UFC, Major League Baseball, etc. If you're looking for live in-game betting with incredible odds, daily odd boosters, props, and parlays, BetUS has got them. How about fast payouts and exceptional one-to-one customer service? Well, they got that too. So log into betus.com, that's betus.com, or call 1-800-792-3887. That's 1-800-79-BET-US. Or log on to betus.com. It's where the games begin. And make sure you use the promo code Pewter because they're going to give you a 125% bonus, not just the first time that you deposit, your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. So it's a tremendous offer. And football season is here, college, pro, etc. Still have baseball going on. Hockey and basketball will be here before you know it. It's a great time of year. So start your season off right with BetUS and use the promo code Pewter. And we welcome BetUS to the Pewter Report family, and we're proud to partner with them. We love their track record, fast payouts, 30 years in business. BetUS, betus.com. Use promo code Pewter.
Yeah, make sure you check it out. Let's get to some more super chats, but first, also want to give a shout out to Pewter Report YouTube channel member Jeff the Champ, who says, "Don't want/need anything for my birthday
Happy
today
birthday.
except a Bucs win." A very happy birthday
Yes.
to you, Jeff the Champ. You are one of our best Pewter Report YouTube channor members and commenters. You're always, if you're not first, you're very close to first every single time.
Algorithm
help on
Love
our
it.
YouTube channel. So we thank you very much for all your support, Jeff the Champ, and we are wishing you the happiest, most fantastic birthday yet. And Jeff the Champ follows that up with Matty Dimes returning for the gambling show. Yes, I will be returning with the gambling show. I've already looked into a couple of things. I think it might be a little bit of a lighter show on Sunday just because we haven't seen the Bucs play just yet, but I got a couple of bets in mind. It might tweak some things as well to make it more Instagram friendly as well versus on our YouTube channel. But yes, betting the Bucs will be returning this year.
Speaking of betting the Bucs, aside from BetUS and Matty Diamonds, Bucs picks and props and all that, I did have a chance to meet Pewter Picks and Props. I did have a chance to meet Michael Pratt today and interviewed him, one of my favorite college players. We had him as a Bucs best bet, of course, and interviewed him at the Senior Bowl and also at the Combine, and did place a wager on Saturday's game because Kansas State is going to New Orleans to play Tulane, the team that beat us. Michael Pratt walked into Manhattan, Kansas, and beat the team that was eventually going to be the Big 12 champions, my Kansas State Wildcats. But that was also the year they beat Caleb Williams and USC in the Cotton Bowl, and Tulane finished in the top 10 that year. So if you see me wearing a Tulane shirt, Matt, in the locker room next week, well, that means my Wildcats went 0-2 against the Tulane Green Wave. But if you see Michael Pratt decked out in purple, that means you know that Kansas State won on Saturday, kickoff at noon on ESPN. So we'll see if K-State can even the score.
Cool. A very fun wager to see. Last thing I'll say as well, if anyone wants me to do college football picks as well, please let me know. I usually end up tweeting them out, but I'm happy to incorporate that with Pewter Picks and Props as well. But feel free to hit me up on social media or leave a comment.
Yeah,
below.
why don't you do that, Matt? I want to win some more money this year, please.
All right, yeah.
Please.
I was kind of thinking Tulane with the points, but yeah, I'll add in college football as well. That will be no issue at all. Let's keep the super chats rolling in. Thank you to Joel El Rican for this $5 super chat, also a Pewter Report YouTube channel member, who says, Jalen McMillan, Bucky Irving are my must-watch for this game. I actually picked up both of them on one of my fantasy teams that I drafted yesterday. Dynasty League, so I'll have them for a while.
There you go.
Hopefully. I feel like they are going to be a problem for defenses to deal with. Go Bucs.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. Jalen McMillan might be that guy that gets a touchdown on Sunday. He might get 2 or 3 touchdowns, just like Trey Palmer did last year, getting a touchdown in week 1 against Minnesota and then in week 4 against New Orleans, because of all the attention the defensive coordinators are going to put on Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, respectively. And why wouldn't you, right? So, yes, it's a good opportunity for these young players to kind of, burst out of the gate here, flying a little bit under the radar. And with Bucky Irving, what I like about him, Matt, and we saw just the consistency, over 4 yards a carry. It wasn't too flashy, but it was consistently good in these preseason games with Bucky Irving. There's not going to be a drop-off, I don't think, from Rachaad White to Bucky Irving like there was from Rachaad White to Chase Edmonds last year. And that's a good thing, because that means the Bucs running game, which wants to get revved up this year, it's not going to have a drop-off.
Oh, for sure. And that's why, I know the question isn't pick one or the other. I am very excited about both. But I feel a little more confident in Bucky Irving just because, when he's there in the backfield, if it's a run play, he's getting the football, unless it's like an end around or something like that. The predictability of the passing game, it's unpredictable. That's the thing of it. So, as great as Jalen McMillan's play in the preseason was, Mike Evans also didn't play in that game. And Chris Godwin didn't really play many snaps or anything of that nature. So with McMillan, while still great and will be functional and useful in this offense, I don't know when his moments are going to come the way that we can kind of suspect that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin's moments are going to come. Where Bucky, if Rashad White's not in the game, it's Bucky time.
That's right.
Bucky's going.
Yeah.
He's cruising along. So very excited for both of them. But Bucky, I think, is a little bit more of a sure thing, just kind of based on the position that he plays.
Yeah. And that's a perfect lead into tomorrow's show. Has the ground game improved in Tampa Bay? And Baker Mayfield had something to say about that today, as well as Rashad White. And there's Bucky Irving right there. And but he's got dreads in this picture. He actually cut his dreads off. You know why? He wanted to be a team player. And he said it's just too hot with these dreads down here in Florida. Of course, he's from Oregon and also played in Minnesota before that. He's from the south side of Chicago, so he's used to some colder weather, but this is hot down here in Florida, the heat and humidity. So this was a picture from preseason, obviously, but there is a cleanly shaved Bucky Irving that's going to be that 1-2 punch with Rashad White. So check out Pewter Report's podcast tomorrow. 4:00 here on Pewter Report TV. Has the Bucs ground game improved? And while we're talking about upcoming shows, don't miss Pewter pregame. New time this year, 9:00 on Sunday morning. So if you miss our live show, Matt and I will be doing it for about 30 to 40 minutes. If you miss the live show, you can watch it before the game, archived here on Pewter Report TV. Of course, we want to see you guys live, answer your questions, and interact with you before the game at 9:00. And then, of course, at 4:25, Matt Matera and Liam Mitchell from Pewter Report will be doing Pewter Game Day. We'll also have a couple of our friends from WD, T. Kraz and Zach Blobner pop in and give us their thoughts on the game as it's going live here on Pewter Report TV. Pewter Game Day, Sunday, 4:25, Bucs and Commanders.
Yeah, very excited for game day and the pregame show as well. We got a couple of new wrinkles this year, new videos, things of that nature. And I think bringing in some of the guys over from WDAE will be fantastic as well. So super pumped for the season.
When you say new wrinkles, you mean like, let's say Zion McCollum were to get an interception.
Yeah. Exactly like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. Almost as cool as the super chats we're getting today, Matt. Holy smokes.
Yes, especially these big time super chats as well. Thank you to Gaming Reaper for the 1999 super chat, who says, first Pewter Report is the ish. LFG with several exclamation points. Thank you so much for the kind words, Gaming Reaper. Secondly, can someone explain how Atlanta's new offensive coordinator's resume is so much better than Cohen's that he isn't as much of a question for them, like how, it isn't as much of a question for them, like how everyone's saying Cohen is for us. Yeah, I mean, a question.
I think to me, you almost have to equate Dave Canales and Zach Robinson, right? Where Zach Robinson never had any play calling experience, just like Dave Canales hasn't. I mean, sure, he came from the Sean McVay tree, but with Liam Cohen got a couple of games worth of play calling experience at the end of that 2022 season when McVay was having a little bit of a meltdown, right, in terms of the season spiraling out of control. He wasn't having that much fun, etc. So Cohen has got a couple of games under his belt. Then he also called plays the entire season in what I like to call NFL Junior, the SEC.
Yeah.
At Kentucky in 2021 and 2023. So to me, that gives Cohen certainly a leg up, not just on Dave Canales from last year, but also over Zach Robinson in Atlanta. Even though they both are going to have similar type of offenses, this is a guy that took an often overmatched Kentucky team against the likes of Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, LSU, some of these better defenses in the SEC. And, developed a guy like Will Levis at Kentucky. So I agree. I think Liam Cohen has a clear, distinct advantage. Matter of fact, our own Josh Capo says the same thing when it comes to the coaching staff. Tampa Bay has the best coaching staff because of Liam Cohen and Todd Bowles. No disrespect to Raheem Morris, friend of the program, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and to that point with friend of the program, Raheem Morris, it's been a while since he was the head coach of a team.
Yeah.
So I think that should really be factored into some consideration as well, because we know Todd Bowles got a lot of, criticism when things didn't really go the Bucs' way his first season as the Bucs head coach, but he hadn't coached the Jets for several years, and now Raheem Morris, it's kind of the similar thing, but also with high expectations based on what Atlanta did all of this offseason. So, I think it's very comparable between Cohen and Atlanta's offensive coordinator, and the fact that the Bucs have the coaching experience over Morris, at least from a head coaching standpoint, with Bowles having a couple of seasons ahead. Thanks to Les Evans for this $2 super chat.
All right, Matty Diamonds, it's Wednesday. Give us your pick.
Yeah, under over a 20-point game. So I'm assuming, do you mean just the Bucs offense or the whole game? Because if it's the whole game for both
smash
teams,
the over.
then smash the over.
Yeah,
you're talking about one team.
I think he's talking about
10 points.
Will the Buccaneers score 20 points? It's how I interpret it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, if you go back to week 1 last year, where everybody was trying to figure out everything on Tampa Bay with their offensive side, I think they got close to 20, if I'm not mistaken, and they had a putrid first half. Like they could barely move the ball on offense.
The final score is 24-21, I believe.
Something like that. And that offense struggled heavily for the first, for the first half of that game. Now you go up against Washington, and it's so interesting looking at Washington's team because, some of the stats from last season, they were statistically the worst in the league in yards allowed per game, but also there's a lot of new additions to the team this year, whether it's Bobby Wagner, whether it's Frankie Louvu, who obviously played for Carolina for a while and knows this team. So you have to think with Dan Quinn and some of the new additions, it's going to be an improved team. I'm leaning towards, yes, the Bucs can score at least 20 points in this game, but it's certainly not anything that's going to be guaranteed by any means.
Yeah. And the biggest thing, and we're sticking with our preview here, right, is when you look at that defensive tackle tandem that Washington is bringing to the table. These are two of the best guys in the league, and Daron Payne as well as Jonathan Allen. They're both studs, and if I'm Liam Cohen, and I tell Graham Barton, I said, listen, you're going to double one of these guys. The other guy, whether it's Ben Bredesen or whether it's Cody Mauch, you're going to have one guy to block by yourself, and that's just the simple math of the inside. Somebody's going to get the double team. The other guy's going to get the one-on-one. I would expect if I'm Dan Quinn, I am double mugging the A gap with both linebackers and really trying to get in the head of Graham Barton and saying, you're supposed to be blocking Daron Payne on this play, or maybe you're supposed to be blocking Jonathan Allen, but all of a sudden I got Bobby Wagner and I got Frankie Louvu, both on either side of me, right? And let's try to cause a delay of game. Let's try to cause a line shift the wrong way and create an opening on a blitz. So I expect Dan Quinn to throw the kitchen sink at the A gap and really pressure the center, because Graham Barton's the tip of the spear in the running game as well as in pass protection. And to your earlier point, Matt, it's the best one. Gosh, if this team can march down the field, get 7 points ahead, it helps Todd Bowles' defense, and it takes a little bit of pressure off that Bucs offense right out of the gate, and it probably allows them to do a little bit more running. You would love nothing better if you're Tampa Bay to beat Washington. The recipe for success is get a lead, run the hell out of the ball in the second half. The Commanders are either going to have on their black uniforms, which would be suicide, or they're all burgundy, or the burgundy and white, I should say, but with their burgundy helmets. They're going to have the darker colored jerseys on, and you want that heat, humidity to wear them down in the second half with the ground game. And you want Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne to have to catch blocks and shed and try to make tackles rather than rush the passer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I do think, going back to Graham Barton, I think that's my number one concern, I think, in the whole game. And we talked a lot about Jaden Daniels and the threat that he presents, but I think Graham Barton bracing himself for, certain stunts and different twists and things like that Washington's going to bring. Yeah. I think if they can handle the interior defensive line of Washington, pretty much the further back that the Bucs have to go against the Washington's defense, the better. Because I think once you get past Wagner and Louvu,
Yeah.
not that there's nobody's back there for Washington by any means, but I love some of the matchups for Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan and Chris Godwin against Washington's secondary. So I think it's one of those where you got to survive early passing the ball. And then, once you take the pass rush out of it, should be smooth sailing for the Bucs. But that's a big time if, then will they, essentially.
Yeah. And that's really going to be an extended topic for us on Friday. If you're a Pewter Insider viewer, and what that means is we do the show, it's going to be at 1:30 on Fridays from now on. We did 11 o'clock before the start of the season, but with the Bucs practice schedule, it's going to be at 1:30 on Fridays for our Pewter Platinum and Pewter Premier members. And it's just Matt and I answering your questions, as well as talking a little bit more, giving a little bit more insight prior to kickoff. Because remember, we'll have also tomorrow's open locker room and Friday to gather some more intel. And we'll bring all of that knowledge straight to you, Pewter Insider viewers, on Friday at 1:30. And if you missed the live show, that's fine. It'll be archived here on Pewter Report TV. But just another perk for our members, especially those that are Pewter Platinum and Pewter Premier. And if you want to become a Pewter Report channel member, you can do so. We've got 4 different options. Just hit the join button on the front of the page, or you can check out the description of the video, and it has a link there as well. Pewter People, Pewter Pro, Pewter Premier, Pewter Platinum for price points at $3.99 a month all the way to $24.99 per month. So pick the option that's best for you and become a Pewter Report channel member today. It's a great way to support us here on the show, and we want to thank a couple of new channel members from yesterday, Jeff Goodrich and Hammy Actual. Thank you so much. And we always want to thank our Pewter Platinum members every show. Guru, Scott Federico, Performance 2, and Scotty J. Thank you so much for your support.
Yeah, thank you all very, very much. I think Scott hit the nail on the head with that. But we appreciate all of you to the umpth degree. So
the interesting thing too about this game is, Cliff Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator. Dan Quinn is going to be heading the defense. But if you go back and look, Cliff Kingsbury came from the air raid where he was a quarterback at Texas Tech, but he learned under Mike Leach and that type of system. But that doesn't really work that well in the NFL. So he really had to incorporate some different gap concepts when it comes to the running game. And you go back and look, he had the opportunity to coach up Kyler Murray, as that was the quarterback he drafted. They got rid of Josh Rosen after 1 year, and he said, if I'm going to take over this job, I want the number 1 overall pick to be Kyler Murray. And he developed him into a Pro Bowl caliber type player. The Cardinals went to the playoffs, not as often as they would like, and that's why he's no longer the head coach there. But then he goes and spends last year, Matt, with USC as an offensive assistant, a consultant, if you will, under Lincoln Riley. And who was their quarterback? Caleb Williams. So this is a player in Jaden Daniels that's coming in that is working with an offensive coordinator that has spent time with 2 very similar quarterbacks that are dual threats, Kyler Murray in Arizona and then Caleb Williams last year at USC. So that is going to do nothing, I think, but accelerate the learning curve of a Jaden Daniels. And he's got some weapons to throw to. Terry McLaurin is their primary weapon. Todd Bowles called him an elite receiver today. Mm-hmm. And one of the interesting things, too, is there's a McCaffrey in Washington, Luke McCaffrey, who was so highly thought of in training camp in the preseason that they traded away Jahan Dotson to a division rival. Mm-hmm. That's how much this guy has impressed. And then a couple of other players that the Commanders have drafted. Well, they might be familiar names to you, Pewter people, because the Buccaneers like them too, starting with Ben Sinnott from Kansas State, my alma mater. He is going to be tight end 2 behind Zach Ertz, but he's going to see a lot of playing time. He's a very athletic tight end. Johnny Newton, the defensive tackle, who has been dealing with a foot injury, but we may or may not see him. We'll see what his status is, but he's a St. Pete native. The Bucs would have drafted him had Graham Barton been off the board. That's how much they like this defensive tackle out of Illinois. Now he is in that defensive tackle rotation with the starters, Jonathan Allen and Payne Durham. Then finally, the other guy that the Buccaneers were really high on as well was Mikey Sanistril from Michigan as a nickel corner. Of course, he was off the board in the second round. That's when Washington drafted him. and the Buccaneers got Tyke Smith from Georgia instead. But these are three players, Matt, that you and I spent a lot of time talking about and previewing that the Commanders ended up picking. And these were players that Tampa Bay was really high on. All three of those players, I believe, came in for official visits.
Great minds think alike, don't they? Let's get back to the super chats. Thanks to Meets McGee for this $5 super chat, who says, I rewatched the draft recap episode. What's your thoughts now about this draft class as we are a few days away? I would say for me, I'm a little higher on Braswell than maybe I necessarily was when they first drafted him in the second round. Barton, I feel the same about. McMillan, I feel even better about. Tyke Smith, I was already pretty high on. So, if anything, it's increased, and I think the amount that all of these guys are going to either contribute or for being a starter on this team, it just shows like how well the Bucs have done in the front office drafting wise, because they're going to be relying a lot on these guys as they did with a lot of players in last year's draft, and now we're looking at McMillan, Bucky Irving. A lot of these guys are going to be big-time players for Tampa Bay this year.
No, you're exactly right. I think this draft class is really, really good. And you're going to see four players, really four starters eventually. Chris Braswell will be a starter at some point, but McMillan's wide receiver 3. Tyke Smith is the starting nickel. And then, of course, you've got Graham Barton starting center. Those are 3 starters out of the gate. Then you add in Braswell probably later this season. Will develop into a starter like Yaya Diaby did halfway through the year last year. Bucky Irving, hey, when he's in the game, Rashad White is on the bench getting a breather. When you're in the game, you're a starter. So Bucky Irving is going to be a big-time part of this offense as well, not just as a running back, but also as a receiver at the backfield. So we talked about it, Matt, for a 10-win team, including that playoff win over the Eagles, to get 4 new starters, that's crazy good, because you're already good to begin with, and you add even more players to level up. That's saying something about Jason Light in this front office.
Very true. Thanks to Paul Morales for this $1.99 super chat, who says, am I crazy to put Baker in the top 10 MVP conversation considering his weapons? I mean, everyone likes a bounce back story. Baker had that last year. The thing that's going to go against him, though, is we have to remember Joe Burrow's coming back from an injury. Aaron Rodgers, God willing, is coming back from an injury. Kirk Cousins is coming back from an injury. And they're kind of all poised to just have more tension around them based on a number of factors. Then you got to throw in Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, who lost a lot of guys. So that's 6 players right there. Then McCaffrey will probably be in the mix, Brock Purdy. So if he's in the top 10, it's probably at 10, but that doesn't mean that he can't have a great season. And who knows? Maybe he shocks everyone.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think well said. I appreciate that comment very much, Matt.
Yeah. Eric Moreno, thanks for the $2 super chat. You guys think Chase McLaughlin will play on Sunday?
We'll know more tomorrow, probably Friday.
Because the abdomen, I think I'm more concerned about than an illness. I mean, the illness, you would think by the end of the week should be all right, but the abdomen obviously changes things, and obviously wouldn't be shocked if the Bucs are working out kickers or bring in a kicker.
Just to cover their bases.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you to Kathy Gillespie for the $1.99 super chat, who says, PR is moving on up. Love the new graphics. Yeah, that was just a sneak peek of what you'll see on the Pewter Game Day show this year. Very excited about the new graphics and what else we have coming at pewterreport.com.
And hopefully you'll see this after Chase McLaughlin makes maybe a game-winning field goal or so. Cool little touches there. Listen, folks, the game is Sunday, but there's plenty of football between now and then. Starting Thursday night, you've got Chiefs and Ravens. You've got the Devin Whiteless Eagles, because he's not going to be playing in that game. Interesting. The Devin White took less to go to the Eagles, and they maybe don't want him. But so we have Friday night football, then Saturday, of course, a big-time college slate action. Then the NFL kicks off in earnest on Sunday. So the place where you want to go, of course, is walk-ons.
What an amazing comeback, Coach.
You're not kidding. I mean, we did lose the game badly, But coming to walk-ons afterward, the team got a much-needed win off the field.
Walk-ons for the win.
So there you go. Make sure you go to walk-ons to watch your football and get fed and drinks galore. Plenty of TVs to watch the action too. So lots of great games and times to be had at walk-ons. Make sure that you check out their happy hour menu too, which is also phenomenal on Wednesdays and Thursdays. It's not just 3 to 6. It's also from 6 to 9. So we've got a great show coming for your way tomorrow. Boy, this hour went by fast. Holy smokes. We love the interaction with you, Pewter people. Has the Bucs ground game improved? Matt and Adam will be talking more in depth about that tomorrow. And we just got a new Pewter Report TV YouTube channel member. And Rachel Gordon, thank you so much. We really appreciate the support.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that. That's great to see as we end the show. If you're not already doing so, please follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. We got tons and tons of content on our YouTube channel, and that includes the Pewter Report podcast 4 times a week, including post-game when the Bucs play on Sunday. But as we said, we have another show coming up tomorrow. So that's going to do it for us today. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Patera saying thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.